You have told me that now the time has arrived that you are going to do your deep dive into the FISA abuse and what took place over this probe into Trump and Russia collusion, which we know never materialized. So, Senator, what are your plans as you kick off this investigation this upcoming week?
Well, I don't have jurisdiction over the whistleblower. That's the Intel Committee. What I'm going to do is call the people who are involved in investigating the counterintelligence investigation. You have 21 people involved that I've named. And I want to find out, what did McCabe and Comey know? When did they know that the dossier was unreliable? The Department of Justice has withdrawn the 2 warrant requests, saying they were illegal. And in January of 2017, the primary Russian subsource told 4 members of the Department of Justice and the FBI that the dossier was a bunch of bar talk and hearsay and not reliable. I want to find out, when did Comey and McCabe understand that it was not reliable, and work from there.
So you're saying if they knew that the dossier wasn't reliable, why did they use it to take a warrant out, 4 of them, 4 times, to spy on a Trump campaign member, Carter Page?
I also want to know, in July of 2016, they tried to get a warrant and it was turned down. And it was McCabe that suggested the FBI Washington office go to New York. They've got something in New York that might help you. It was the Russian dossier. So who told McCabe that the document was in New York? And if McCabe thought it would help him with the warrant, why didn't he spend some time trying to find out if it was reliable? So that's what I'm looking at. Who knew what when? Did Rosenstein know that the dossier had been debunked by the time he signed the warrant? How could he not know?
So we're looking now on the screen of some of the players that actually signed the warrant to get the warrant in front of the FISA court. That includes Jim Comey and Andrew McCabe and Sally Yates and Rod Rosenstein and Dana Boente. Are these the people you're expecting to call down to testify in front of your committee in the next 2 weeks?
I don't know about the next 2 weeks. The first thing I want to do is call the 4 people who heard from the Russian subsource that this dossier is a bunch of bar talk and hearsay. Here's what you got to believe: that the most important investigation the FBI is conducting, the guy is now a sitting president, who was the nominee of the Republican Party, that the system was told by a Russian subsource of Steele that everything in the dossier is unreliable. I find it hard to believe that that did not work its way up to Comey and McCabe. Can you imagine how the system must have took the information that the primary document, the dossier, is a bunch of garbage? To think that it did not make its way up to the top, it would be hard for me to believe. So I'm going to find out, did it make its way up to the top?
So when you say you're going to find out, how are you going to find that out? Are you going to have them come down and testify?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the 4 people in the room, when you heard from the Russian primary subsource that this is a bunch of bar talk and hearsay and it's not reliable, it was never meant to get a warrant, Steele is using in a way different than I thought he would use it. I want to find out, did any of those people tell anybody? Can you imagine working for the FBI and the Department of Justice, the most important investigation in the entire country just fell apart? And you didn't tell anybody? That's pretty hard for me to believe. And how did McCabe know the document was in New York when he couldn't get a warrant in July of 2016? How did McCabe know to go to New York? Who told him? This whole thing is fishy as hell. I want to find out who knew what, when.
Committee within the next 2 weeks.
You're going to have people interviewed by my staff and others to get the foundation. Before I call McCabe and Comey, I want to find out exactly what happened. I want to find out who told what to who. Then we'll call them. I just can't believe that the investigation fell apart in January of 2017. They got 2 more warrants after they knew it was a bunch of garbage. How could that possibly happen? Here's my question to Rosenstein. If you knew then what you know now, that it was a bunch of garbage, would you have appointed Mueller? There was no crime.
Yeah.
The dossier was the basis of the warrant. In January 2017, it was a bunch of garbage. The guy who provided the information to Steele rejected the dossier as being reliable.
Yeah.
How could they continue? Why did it take 2 years for Mueller to figure this out? You should have figured it out in a week.
Yeah, especially since the taxpayers paid $40 million to do that.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to make a brief statement. We're going to take no questions. Today's hearing was an important part of our investigation, the committee's investigation, into Russian involvement in the 2016 elections. It also enabled the American people to understand the massive amounts of stories that's been out there and to sort through those and to have an individual that can lay some factual context to it. This is nowhere near the end of our investigation. And I think it's safe to say today that next week we hope to work with Special Counsel Mueller to work out clear pathways for both investigations, his and ours, to continue, to work on deconfliction of witnesses and potential testimony. But we're more confident today that we can, through this process, work through a very bipartisan and thorough investigation that at the end of it answers many of the questions that the American people might have today.
I want to simply add, I was very proud of how all of the members conducted themselves today. I thought it was very important that the American people get a chance to hear Jim Comey's statements about what all has transpired. The one thing, even if we may have different views on where some of these questions may lead, the one message that I hope all Americans will take home is recognizing how significant the Russian interference in our electoral process was, how it goes to the core of our democracy, and that we've got to be prepared to make sure that we are in a better defensive position in 2018, 2019, and frankly, in my home state as early as next week where we have a primary. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.